So it's been a full year since the release of Infinite Warfare, and there's one thing that you can't take away from Infinity Ward, and that is the amount of perseverance that they had over this last year. I mean, they released what is hands down the most poorly received Call of Duty title ever, and to this day, they're still adding more content inside of Infinite Warfare. I mean, if that's not determination to prove everyone else wrong, I don't know what is. So just a hearty fuck you to everyone, I guess. But a little while back, I did an update video letting everyone know that there were some new variants inside of Infinite Warfare. Unfortunately, you can only get them through the Quatermaster Collection, and with the addition of these new variants, we were able to craft other variants that we previously couldn't, like the X-Eon Warsight and the RVN Blowout. But that was pretty much it. I generally covered all the new variants as far as epics goes. I didn't really cover anything in depth because I personally don't have my hands on these weapons, and I just want to let everyone know that there was new variants brought into the game at that time. Well, it appears there's some new variants inside Infinite Warfare, and it wasn't for some of you guys pointed it out, I would have never noticed. I'm going to go over them today. Unfortunately, much like before, these variants are only accessible through the Quatermaster Collection, and since my luck is complete shit, I don't have any of them. But I don't give a because we're still going to talk about it. So first up, we have the 2187 Thunderstruck. This of course comes with the epic selling trait known as triple barrel burst, and then the description reads each of 3 barrels fire in a quick succession. Now it also reads akimbo is restricted, which I find very interesting because whenever you get an epic variant, you normally have to figure out on your own what attachments are restricted. The Oni Kaiken is a prime example of this. If you guys didn't know, the Fusion Mag attachment is not available with the Kaiken. Now going based off of the name of the trait and the description of the trait, it sounds like whenever you pull the trigger, the 3 barrels will rotate, and while rotating, fire 1 bullet from each barrel at a time, similar to the way a revolver works. Whenever you pull the trigger, the cylinder will spin and a bullet will come out. However, with the revolver being semi and the Thunderstruck being a burst, every time you pull the trigger, you're actually firing 3 bullets versus 1. And this is not to be confused with the salvos where you get tri-barrel. Whenever you pull the trigger, all 3 barrels fire at once, thus allowing you to have a higher damage output. Now if you look at the stat card between the two, they're very similar in design, which a lot of these weapons pretty much are. Infinity Ward decided to keep the same weapon models from previous epics and basically spice up the way they work and just changing up the traits a little bit. But next up, we have a brand new Atlas known as the Atlas Annihilator, which brings the Berserker trait that previously only the Karma 45 had. I forget exactly which one it was, but basically whenever you got a kill, the weapon's fire rate would increase while simultaneously reducing the amount of recoil that the weapon had. Pretty much a built-in Deadeye Dewdrops, if you will. Much like the Thunderstruck and salvos, Infinity Ward decided to keep the same weapon design from the Atlas Artifice and carry it over into the Atlas Annihilator, which I find very interesting because all the Artifice really offered was a brand new sight. So with the Annihilator, you may be getting 2 epics in one. That is, of course, if you want to consider the Artifice an epic to begin with. I believe it was also a 3 burst. Yeah, if I remember correctly, that gun is actually a 3 burst, which begs the question of, since the Annihilator has the Berserker trait, if you get that fire rate going enough, can you turn it into a full auto, or is it a full auto automatically? I don't know, man. Now that gun's got me thinking. It sounds pretty interesting. Next up, we have a brand new epic Titan known as the Titan Expanse. Now this gun kind of caught me by surprise. I don't understand why after the life cycle, Infinity Ward finally decides to add in a brand new Titan, but the Titan Expanse comes with the inverted polarity trait, which besides obviously this variant, the only other gun in this game that has this trait is the Oni Tengu. I mean, this one's kind of a whatever deal for me. I'm happy to finally see a brand new epic for the Titan that actually does something, because the only other epic we have is the Titan Scout, and all that does is change the Trojan sight, which, I mean, let's be honest, who the plays with the Trojan sight and zombies to begin with? But it's kind of cool to see a brand new Titan. Now I use the term cool very loosely, but anyways, moving on. We have the brand new Firebug, which is obviously staying true to the Smoothbore's weapon design, but instead of firing a single slug, this one actually lights people on fire. Now, I've never been big inside of multiplayer inside of Infinite Warfare, but this has me very curious to see how it works out. If there's any type of burning effect, well, obviously there will be, but how deadly is it to people inside of multiplayer? Also, when you pack a punch it, does the burning effect get stronger? Does it stack with Change Shoes fire element? This one is cool, just for novelty's sake. I think this one will be one that I would love to actually play with myself. And next up, we got a brand new Stallion known as the Stallion Holiday. This seems to do the opposite of what many nerfs to this weapon did, and that is allowing this gun to have an increased fire rate when you're aiming down sight. It also looks like they're keeping that scope that the original Peacekeeper had, which I don't really think is going to be a good thing, but I don't know. I've never played with the Peacekeeper myself, but I feel like this epic as a whole was really not necessary. I mean, did anyone really want an epic Stallion 44 besides the Peacekeeper? No. The short answer answer is no. I didn't want one. I mean, maybe if it did more damage, but I don't know, this epic just seems kind of pointless to me. A little bit like the Titan Expanse, just a little too late and doesn't really have anything that wants me to grind for it, I guess. But the last two epics, I can provide a little more insight on because initially these variants were added to the game through seasonal or event-based content, meaning they were a timed exclusive that you can only get during a specific event. So first up, we have the Volk Vintage, which is the spin-off of the Volk Retro. Now, initially, the Volk Retro can only be obtained through the COD Days of Summer event, so if you missed your opportunity at that point in time, then you can't get your hands on the Retro, which is actually the game player in the background. But the Retro has the same exact epic selling trait as the Volk Vintage, which grants you a ballistic conversion kit, which basically turns the Volk, which is originally a energy-based weapon, into a ballistic-based one, which now grants you access to the extended mag attachment, which in turn would obviously give you much more ammunition than you had access to with the original Volk. Now, if the Vintage works anything like the Volk Retro, non-pack-a-punch is very weak and is more utilized for point accumulation than anything else, but once you start to pack it and double pack it, then it's got much more of a punch to it and obviously much more ammunition than the base Volk has due to its extended mag attachment accessibility. Now, back when the Volk Retro was the brand new epic to have, I did an Is It Worth It video on it, and in the video, it was pre-patched, so it was relatively weak, and I did say that if you didn't get your hands on the weapon, then you're not missing out on much. It's much more of a disappointment than anything else. Actually, more of a novelty, and I think it's still the same. However, with the post-patch buffs, it's much better, but even if you don't get lucky enough to get this weapon out of the Quatermaster Collection, I don't think any epic Volk is really something that you should be aiming for or disappointed if you don't get it. None of the epics change the gun in a way that really elevates it above the base variant itself. And considering the Retro and the next weapon that I'm going to be talking about were seasonal based weaponry that anybody can get randomly out of a drop while the event is live, doesn't make much sense to me on why these weapons aren't just craftable to begin with. They're not something that we haven't seen before. I mean, the Retro works the exact way as the Vintage does. They have the same exact selling trait. So why is the Vintage locked behind supply drops? I don't really get the logic behind Infinity Ward doing this. Now, the other epic that I want to talk about is called the Auger Prime, which is pretty much the Auger Pumpkin Pummeler. Actually, to go a step further, the Auger Pumpkin Pummeler is actually the same exact thing as the Auger Prime. They have the same secondary trait and the same primary epic selling trait, so I'm gonna assume that they pretty much work the exact same. And I would go a step further and call Infinity Ward extremely lazy because the name and trait of the same variant is the same name, but that's just me being nitpicky. Now again, I have Pumpkin Pummeler gameplay in the background since I don't have the Auger Primed, but since they're the exact same, this gun is not as good as you expect it to be. So if you guys have played with the basic Auger, you would know that there's kind of a crescendo with the fire rate. It starts out very slow, and as you hold down the trigger, it starts to speed up, and ultimately the time to kill for zombies lessens because of this. Unfortunately, with the Auger, though, something to keep in mind is that just because it's got a little bit of faster fire rate with this newer variant, doesn't necessarily mean that it's better at killing. Matter of fact, on the contrary, you're going to be burning through ammunition constantly in order to get more kills in zombies. It's just not that much of a satisfying gun to play with. Well, I mean, the gun is fun to play with, but efficiency wise, I never rely solely on this weapon, especially for an LMG. It's kind of disappointment in terms of its damage output, but I still don't understand why Infinity Ward didn't just say, hey, we're giving out these two guns for free. You know, they were seasonal based weapons at one point in time, but if you missed out on your opportunity, here's a chance. Or even if they didn't want to give the weapons out for free, why not throw them inside of the prototype labs and say, hey guys, if you missed out on the COD Days of Summer event, or if you missed out on the Halloween event, here's the Auger Primed, and here's the Volk Vintage, the counterparts of the Volk Retro and the Auger Pumpkin Pummeler. So if you missed out, here you go. I don't know, that's just me. I just don't really understand why they have to throw in these weapons that I don't really see as brand new behind supply drops, especially if they want this game to keep going. But anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you guys gotten any of these new variants, and if you guys want me to test them out, make a video on it, or anything, just hit me up. You know, DM me on Twitter, or follow me over on Instagram and message me there. Full disclaimer, sometimes I'm a little slow to respond, but I try to respond as quickly as I can. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. My name is Cynic. Happy holidays, and I'll see you guys all next time.